All right, Milsurp Garage. We're here with the post-range recap. So sit back, get comfortable. Let's talk about what we got going on here. Alrighty, first up, we got the Winchester Model 77. I had used this gun before. I have had this one for a short amount of time, but I have used it before, and I love it. I love it. There's a big star today, or this day. It was right up there. Let me make sure. Okay, I'm recording good. Let's see, what do we got here? Now, here's the notes that I have on this guy. The balance is good. The weight is good. It's light without feeling cheap. And that's not easy. You see how there's no charging handle there? The charging handle is on the left side. That is one of the odd things about this gun, but it does not make it feel weird. It seems your hands just seem to like fall right into place. It's not a problem. As I show with these, I wish it focused better. Gotta get up off my fat ass to reach the camera, but I like to try to show like how the primer hits, what they look like. Are they weak? Are they deep? Are they? You know, this one's nice and strong, just like it should be. Square, deep shot, nice, right on the rim, perfect. The sights on this guy are clear, unobstructed. This magazine loading, you see I'm loading this magazine here. Wish I was more on camera, but it has like a little thumb button that you can pull the follower down with to make loading a little bit easier, where you don't have to push to overcome the magazine spring. You can, with the other thumb, pull down while you're loading. That really makes it very comfortable, nice. Look at how nice it charges, you know? Not that typical where you feel like you're cutting the edge of the first round off, you know what I mean? Like when you're charging it. Charged smooth as butter. Look at that ejection. Nice, strong. You don't even see that bolt moving. It's just a lightning fast, very positive extraction and ejection of the brass. And this is with CCI standard velocity ammo. You know, and this guy, see the bolt hold open right there? That button on the top of the receiver ring? That's not very common on these. See that button now where I can hold the bolt open? It's a big star, and it can take, very easily it would take hotter ammo. So now we move on to the Winchester Model 57. This one I have also fired before. I had gotten a couple of 10-round magazines for it, but initially I thought I forgot to bring them, but then they were in the bag, the case, the soft case that I carry this in has like a pouch, a zippered pouch on the side. They were in there, of course. But it doesn't matter. This 5-rounder was loaded smooth as butter. Look at this thing. This thing, it just reminds me of like an 03 Springfield. Look, I had to fold that rear sight up. That's a nice thing that has that foldable sight. And this thing, see, it looks like I was like struggling with the bolt handle there for a second, but I'm not really. It's not. It's very smooth. It's just I wasn't using as much oomph as I needed to use, so I didn't want to give the impression that it was sticky, because it really isn't. You just have to. This one, you know, it's a pretty stiff spring that closes that bolt. You know what I mean? And then that's what makes that cocking piece really slam home. I show you these jars. I'm going to get into that in a minute. Why I use jars for the ammo. You have to check these rifles, these 22s there. See, look, I do see if it's top offable, and it is. It just went right in there. I pushed it right into the mag, just like a typical Milsurp, just like an 03 Springfield. It's top offable. And again, nice, strong. This definitely no problem with how hard it's hitting. I mean, it's like when you charge this thing, you can feel how tight you're making that spring that brings the cocking piece home. Yep. Now this guy's this rifle's It was a again, nice clear sights, and it feels well balanced in the hands. It has that Mauser feel to it, just because that barrel band, the sling, that ring, that receiver ring, the way that cocking piece is in the back is just very, like, '03 Springfield-ish. Just has that feel of being in between a Mauser and a '03 Springfield. And look at that, the ejection and extraction. Look at that, no problem there. I mean, it's very positive. It's quiet as hell. And this thing it fires shorts and longs. Kind of like a little bit of an anomaly there. I don't know if I have another one that's like that. Why? Some reason they just couldn't take that step up to long rifle. But that's why you just need to be careful. You need to read every single one of these receivers before you shoot. And then I'm going to show you. Let me show you what I got going on when I get to it. I'll show you what I got going on with those jars. Why I use jars. Okay, here's number 3 now. This one I have never fired before. I got it a while ago. I think I forgot to take it to the range on my last trip when I wanted to shoot it. Maybe 2 times in a row. Now you see how I have a large jar for the long rifle and a small jar for the shorts. There's a reason for that. So that they're not in the same type of container, so it's less likely for a mistake to be laid. Small jar, small bullet. Large jar, large bullet. This one only takes shorts, so I cap off the long rifle jar. I cap it off, and I open up the short jar. I dump some out on the table, and that's the one that stays open. So even if I accidentally grab the wrong jar, it's closed. So when I'm loading and I'm messing with ammo and manipulating a gun, I don't start opening up different jars and mixing and matching. See, I keep it away from my face for the first round. It's because it's I never fired it before. I hit it right in the throat with that brass. That thing kicked. I didn't expect it to kick him out like that. It shoots him 30 feet. The thing is no joke. This is like a rolling block. This thing is so cool. It doesn't make a freaking sound. I'm shooting into the sand because I just look at it. It literally. It's making me laugh. It literally sounds like a dry fire. That's how quiet it is. So I just want to make sure that I'm not squib rounding here. I just want to make 100% sure, just learn to trust it. So you can see I'm shooting about, this is a 50 yards my target is away from me. I'm shooting about 30, 35 yards just to make sure I'm hitting the sand. I want to watch the sand to see that I'm hitting something. So I know the round is coming out. Very strange. Look at that. It's a round firing pin hit. Don't really see that often. A round firing pin hit. Usually it's a square. But it's hitting nice and strong. Now this guy, it's very easy to load. It's super quiet, accurate, fun as hell. It has that classic look and feel of a rolling block. You're using the rolling block mechanics here when you're playing with it. You're shooting, you're pulling the hammer back, you're opening the breech, kicking out your round, you're grabbing a bullet, you're placing it on the, entrance collar thing there, and you're closing the action, and you're aiming down the sights, and you're shooting again. It's rolling block mechanics with a 22. How awesome is that? And this thing, it's like small enough for kids, but just large enough where it doesn't feel uncomfortable for an adult. It certainly feels small in your hands, but it's just awesome. I don't know how to explain it. It does not feel like a toy, and it's a breeze. Come on, you sitting on the porch with a jar of those CB caps. These aren't even shorts. These are CB caps. I just want to be 100% sure that I'm using low pressure stuff. So these CB caps are great. And sitting on the porch, shooting at cans, like in the evening with your dog sitting next to you, you wouldn't even be disturbing the neighbors. It's louder to hammer a wood into a board. Honestly, it's so whisper quiet. And yeah, so the jars, that's why I use those jars. Because now, see, as I'm shooting, I dump some out on the table. And when I'm done with that one, I'll shoot whatever I dumped out on the table. I'll leave the table clear. And then I'll cap that. Every time I'll cap it. So that if I pick up another rifle and it happens to be one that's going to fire shorts, I'll uncap the shorts again. I check it each time to make sure. I check each receiver. Even if I think I know the gun, I'm like, oh yeah, that one shoots shorts, right? Doesn't it? I don't leave that open for, there's no speculation. I read what it says on the side of the receiver. So anyway, you could see I picked the target on the end, that one all the way on the end at 50 yards. That's me. I picked the one on the end so that I'm not bothering anybody by shooting down at the ground. When I'm testing out these new 22s and sighting them in, I can't really see 50 yards. It's kind of like a little bit too far even. Once I hit the ground a few times and I grew to trust them, or like when I was using the 77, I shot at the target. And I wasn't really paying all that much attention to this target, guys, so please don't give me any slack. But that's it's really not bad considering that I'm just, blindly just kind of shooting away at that thing just for the... I kind of just put that up there just to make it look like I'm not shooting at the ground. But I'll show you what I was shooting at. Right here in front of this grass, see there's a couple of white things on the ground? They're like pieces of ammo boxes. That's what I was hitting. I was hitting them and knocking them all over the place, But it's better with these because they're so quiet and they just make such a whisper quiet noise. I just want to make sure that with these newer ones especially that I've never shot before, that all the rounds are leaving the barrel. That's definitely number one there. So here's our first problem that we encountered. I'll just discuss a little bit here about primary extraction. Primary extraction is, you'll notice with most semi-automatics, when you start, like if you got a Garand at home, take out your Garand, take a look at it, have the bolt fully closed, and start pulling the bolt back. You're going to see that the bolt will rotate the round as it slightly pulls it back. And then you're just going to reach a point where that camming action stops. That's the ammo I was using. I wasn't really sure who to blame for this mishap, but we're going to take a look. Where was I? The camming action stops and then it just pulls the round straight out. The reason why it twists and pulls back slightly, that's the primary extraction, is that, say you hammered a nail into a board and then you wanted to pull it out. If you just grabbed it, pulled straight back, it doesn't have to be in there that tight. See, that loading port is weird. That round did a 180 and went in backwards. The other ones that loaded into the buttstock, I didn't see them doing that, but that one was weird. The round, it was kind of like a wider space where the round could kind of flop around the other way. It was a little odd. But if you're going to pull a nail out of the board, you wouldn't pull it straight out. You would twist it side to side as you pulled. When you pull something out and twist it, it comes out easier. That's exactly the same principle. That charging handle is a pain in the ass. The bolt hold open is a pain in the ass. Undoing the bolt hold open is a pain in the ass. Look, it won't charge around. I don't know why. So I have to relax the spring pressure of the magazine, then close the magazine. Now there's a round ready to be picked up. And look, it still didn't close on the round. Oh, sticky, I said, but it's, I don't know if it's that ammo. So now, the first few shots here, nice. I mean, that's nice strong ejection. Look at that one. That was a nice strong ejection. Now watch how it changes here. As it warms up. That one didn't eject quite as much. It kind of fell next to me, so I'm like, oh good, I could use that one to show what the primer hit looks like. Then the next one's even weaker. That just kind of dribbled out. And now the next one. Now did you see what happened? It fired. The round left the barrel, but the bolt never moved. the brass fire formed to the chamber and stuck there. It could be that the chamber is a little rough, maybe a little pitted, a little eaten up, and it makes it like a rough surface where the fire formed brass is now, pushing up against a rough abrasive surface so it doesn't get pulled out. Or it could just be that the ammo sucked. Look, it chambered the round with no problem. Then if it doesn't want to go the other way after it expands, so now I'm not really sure what's going on. I thought that round didn't detonate. That's what I thought. I thought that it just didn't go off. So I wanted to drop the bolt. I wanted to drop the firing pin on it again. Of course, that doesn't do anything because it did fire. I didn't realize that the round had left. So I keep charging it up against that brass that's stuck in there because I keep expecting the extractor to pull it out. And I'm like, why is that still there? So I don't have much experience with brass getting stuck in the chamber, so it's just not something I encounter often. So I was a little thrown for loops here. So I think I do it again. I keep cycling the action, even though I know that brass is in there. I keep saying, well, if I close the action without a round there, I'll pick up that spent case and pull it out. But it just keeps not happening. I don't realize it's stuck in there, and it's very difficult when you double feed this thing. When you have like when you have a round in the chamber and you feed another one, there isn't much room to get that one out. So now I realize what's going on. So I say, all right, let me get out my little Swiss Army knife screwdriver and pry it out of there. But man, I never really fully understood how tight the brass can get jammed in there. This, like, even if you were on the battlefield, you would think if you had a little screwdriver like that, you'd be able to pull it out. But man, you'll die with that rifle in your hands, because when that brass gets fire formed to a chamber where it's not extracting, like, you got to hammer it out from the other side. I never even realized how tight that could actually be. So I'm determined here, but I fail at getting this out, and I don't want to go crazy. I could probably put this on the edge of the receiver, like and pry with it. But I don't want to do that. I keep thinking if I just get the edge of that screwdriver on the rim of the cartridge, I can just push with my thumb and get it out. And that's what I keep trying. I'm not too keen on like scratching up the receiver there, so I don't want to pry on it. But man, I was determined. Now I figured maybe I could close. I think I tried to close the action on and use the extractor. Saying if I push the extractor closed, I dump the magazine empty. I don't remember if I'm going to bail now or if I even keep trying. I think I try to see how that. Yeah, see, I'm like, maybe the extractor can grab it. No matter how I slam it, I guess the extractor is just pulling back up over the rim. So now I think I push the extractor closed. Yeah, so now I figure maybe when I close it, I just bail here. I'm like, you know what? It failed. Nice strong hit though on the primer. I have to do some more investigation here. It could be that the chamber just needs to be polished up. It could be that Old Western Scrounger ammo is not perfect with the specifications for this rifle. But it did chamber it with no problem. If it wasn't chambering it and it came out, if it went in tight and it was coming out tight, it's the ammo. If it goes in fine and it comes out tight, it's definitely, the chamber. So we'll move on here. Well, I'm going to do a video. We're going to do some further investigation. We're going to find out what's going on with that 1903. I don't like proprietary ammo. Just so you know. I don't like it. It's one of the things I shy away from. That's why those, what is it, the Model 61 or something, or 62, there's one that takes the 22 long rifle that looks like those. But I had to go with that proprietary 22 Winchester auto round. I had to go with that. All right, here is the Model 24, Remington Model 24. This guy, there's a little interesting stuff going on with this guy too. Check this out. This guy loaded just fine through that see how the rounds didn't have any, weren't in any danger of spinning around in there. This is the loading. The loading and ejecting point in the bottom is awkward because when you charge it, you're not really seeing what's going on. But here you could see it's ejecting the brass. You see? Now, did you see how it kicked out the brass? But I was thinking, what's going on? Is that round a dud? Again, when you're shooting, you really have to. Oh, that was a stovepipe right there. Look, and then it dumped out. There's nothing in the chamber now. I think the chamber's charged, but I just saw that next round that was supposed to go in fell out. So I think I'm gonna dry fire here, right? And again, now I think I charged it. But again, I pumped it. I pumped another round out and then charged it. That's why it's a little awkward. You can't see what's going on in there, you know, without turning the gun in a strange direction. So, and that's it. So there's a little stumbly there, just with a stovepipe. But I'm going to explain to you that stovepipe, and there's also a failure to feed here that goes on. I'm going to tell you what this is all about. This is because the CCI standard velocity ammo is just a tiny bit not strong enough. Just a tiny bit. If it was just a little bit hotter, it would cycle perfectly. But believe it or not, that buffer spring in that thing is so strong. You see, when you pull that bolt back, it goes back 70% of the way. Look at that little springy thing comes in handy here. Watch what I do. Push it around past the loading gate, drop it in, push it past, back, push it in, push it past. That little springy nose on that magazine tube comes in handy for doing that. I kind of like that. Instead of using gravity, if it's laying flat, you could use that. Now watch here. What's weird is this why it throws me for loops. You have to have your game brain on when you're shooting to be able to really pick these things up. And you watch them later on the video, you see what's going on. But I'll tell you, I was a little in the dark here. This is what was happening here. It goes back 70% of the way the bolt. Then it hits a buffer spring. That last 30% is much stiffer. However, it ejects the brass on the 70%, and then it loads it as it pushes past and then comes back forward past the 30%. So you see brass came out, brass came out, brass came out, brass came out. This, I think I go through this whole magazine actually with no problem. And that's it. You see how that last trigger pull, you heard the click because it was charged. So what happens is, if the round is not powerful enough to fully cycle the blowback action, with this example, it will kick out the brass and then come forward and not pick up a round. So it could do one without doing the other. So that's what was happening to me. I was just ending up with an empty chamber, and it wasn't even cocking the hammer. So the trigger was just dead. It's not like the trigger went click on an empty chamber. The trigger was just flat. The trigger wasn't even charged yet. It's almost like it charges the hammer on that back buffer spring part too. Watch, brass comes out. Brass comes out. Ejected, 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 ejected. And right there, look, the trigger's dead. It didn't click, and I'm like, what the There's no stovepipe in there this time, and I'm like baffled. And I don't really have visibility into the. See, I'm afraid to turn the gun sideways, and I pull it back and I pull a round out. So I'm like, how the hell? And now it's empty. I'm a little baffled there. I'm like, did this one? I never touched the primer there. It's like that was not impacted. You watch the video later, and then it's easy to pick up exactly what's going on. Well, anyway, that one was a nice rifle, though. But it could probably go with standard, with like high velocity. I wouldn't go to Stingers or Velocitors or anything, but you could probably use some CCI HV, some high velocity stuff, and you'd probably cycle that thing much more reliably. So that's a good thing that you could step up to long, higher velocity long rifle. They called the range on me there, so I had to regroup. All right, so now this guy, I've never shot this one yet. This is the one that I did the video on that I just got at the gun show. I haven't done a video on it yet. I'm in love with this thing. It's a Winchester single shot rifle, an 1885, basically is what they call it. So I love this thing. It's friggin' awesome. It was definitely the hit of the day. I gotta be honest with you. It's 22 short also. You drop it right on the edge of that loading gate, very similar to the rolling block. See, I keep my face away from the first shot. I'm doing that when I never shot him before, even though this was the quietest of all of them. This thing wasn't even making a sound. It was sick. The quietness. And it ejected just fine. Take a look. Yeah, look at that. That is a perfect. That's exactly what you want it to look like. Nice fucking stiff shot. The deal with this guy is you do have to be careful though. You'll watch here. I put a round in here at some point. And when I close the action, it gets pinched in a weird way. The rolling block doesn't do that. The rolling block, when you put the round in there, it kind of sits on the edge of like the ejector. And then when you close the action, it like kind of carries it a little bit into the chamber, and then the breech block pushes it the rest of the way in. See, right there, it got caught. Because it kind of fell off the edge of that thing as I was closing the action. See, it bent the bullet tip. And then it got me thinking, like, wow, you do have to be careful, because if you close it like that, and that edge of that breech block hits the rim of the cartridge. See, I'm realizing that I realize. See, safety issues jump out at me right away. But I'm like, well, that's an issue. That would go off right in your face. You know, so even if the brass doesn't eject, it can't fall into the action. It's kind of like, it's just hammer the top of the breech block. It's like nothing could fit in there, so you don't have to worry about that brass getting stuck in there. When you open it, it's impervious to the brass. Even though that tiny little short brass can't fall into the action. See, when you place that on there, you got to be careful when you close it. This thing was so heavy and so solid, you couldn't even tell that it was firing. It was sick. The action on this thing really smoothed up nice after a few shots though too. Also, because I took it apart and cleaned everything all out on this thing. It's pretty dirty inside when I first bought it. I love this thing. What did I write here? Held. I don't know. Can't read my own handwriting. But that was the day at the range. This thing was a big hit. I was really glad that this thing fired well and worked well. I was a little worried because when I took it apart and cleaned it all out, the firing pin might not have perfectly been falling when it was dirty. It just, the firing pin chamber needed to be cleaned out, and there was just a lot of grime and grit in there, and glad that I cleaned it out really so good or whatever. It worked very well. Look at this. You could sit there all day with this thing. You really could. Just close it up my finger right there. And I'll do a video on this thing soon. It definitely deserves its own place. It's John Browning's single shot rifle. I mean, this is the gun that when Winchester decided to work with John Browning, this was the first thing on the table. I mean, that's history right there. So that was my range day. Had a great day. Every single one of these worked. Every single one of these had a hammer spring, like an action spring that was tight enough to set off the rounds. The only real issue I had, one wasn't really an issue, it was the Model 24, just that standard velocity, that subsonic stuff is just, thankfully, you always want to you always want to start a little low and work your way high. You definitely don't want to start with high pressure ammo and work your way down. That doesn't make any sense. But it could definitely use just regular, any of this just regular Remington high velocity ammo, just any normal 22 stuff. This CCI standard velocity stuff is just kind of like, not that many people really using that. Everybody's always stepping up to something that's a little hotter. With these older 22s, I stick with this stuff. But for that one, for that Remington, the 24, it looks like it could use a little bit of a hotter round. And the 03, I gotta just do some research now, so you gotta learn about something now. If anyone's got some expertise in what causes that, let me know. But I would think that if I got something a little abrasive on on some type of little buffing wheelie kind of thing that fit right inside the chamber, and just buff that out a little bit, just clean that up. The chamber, I would think if the chamber was buffed a little cleaner, but if I got in there with some kind of scope to look in there or whatever, I would see some rough edges. That would be my guess. Because when the brass came out, and even other brass that I have, they're scraped. They have like scrapes on the side, so it looks to me like it's just trying to pull the brass out of a out of a sandpapery like chamber. So that's that, guys. We are all done. And look at that. Here's my YouTube suggestions for the future. And we got a great day. And that jittery camera look right there is my messed up iPhone. Apparently the iPhone 6 is prone to having jittery camera problems after a while. So, oh joy. Now I gotta do YouTube videos on a jittery camera. I'll figure something out. So y'all have a pleasant day. That was the range recap. We got some things on the back burner now. We have to do a video on the 03 screwing up. We got to do a video on the new 1885 or Winchester single shot rifle. Want to show you what that thing's all about. And that 1897 that you also saw that I got at the gun show, that thing definitely needs to be shown around. What an awesome gun. So until then, you guys take care. Thanks for tuning in.